If you're going to ask questions, I'm going to again let you know that you should come up to one of these mic and speak in a mic. Okay, that's the only way we're going to be able to hear you, and that's how we would like to have it run today, this evening. You have anything to say? Please take one of the seats. If you're representing an association, take a seat, have a seat. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to allow you each 5 minutes. If anyone is interested in speaking, like I said, we have somebody, I have someone in my office here who is going to be scribing. I ask that you take a seat. Now, 5 minutes, okay? We don't want you to be running over that time. So, 5 minutes time frame for you to be able to speak.
5 minutes for each, I think. I think so, yes.
I also want you to note that this is really an atmosphere of respect that we're having this town hall meeting. And in that vein, we're going to ask you to kindly put your cell phones on mute. If you haven't done that already, kindly place your cell phones on mute. Okay, so that they're not vibrating. We don't allow picture taking in here, only by our professionals who you see here. And some senators may also take pictures, but for you. So know that all of us here are very disappointed that no one, not even one of the commission members, found it necessary to come to this town hall meeting. But like I mentioned, Ms. Gums, Mr. What a gentleman name? Who is the clear one? Mr. Laplace? McGrath? One of the law enforcement agents, as well as the secretary for the Taxi Cab Commission, was to the town hall meeting on June 23rd in St. John. I don't know what her apprehension was, or the apprehension to come this evening, but they had ample notice. Okay, so we're going to go in this order. We're going to start with a gentleman here in the red, and we're going to work our way this way. If anybody else is interested in testifying, we have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can fill up any of these 1, 2, 3 seats and the 7. Okay? Madam Timekeeper, you ready? Okay. Okay, so remember the housekeeping rules. 5, certainly. And be sure to say what your name is too.
Question before you start.
This. Kindly recognize this, Mike Media.
Testing. Yeah, Marvin Smith, Eastern Taxi. I just wanted to find out, because you have an agenda, so I just want to know if I could just speak about what I want to speak about, or do I have to follow this agenda?
We're going to open it up because we're here to serve you. And if it's on your heart and your spirit to speak about something, speak it. You have freedom of speech under the United States Constitution.
Right. Okay, just let me know when my time starts.
Okay. And be sure to say your name, Mr. Smith. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Clerk, you ready? Okay,
you can go ahead. Okay, Marvin Smith, Eastern Taxi President. I ain't come here to make any statement on behalf of Ms. Gums, because Ms. Gums is about probably a year in this taxi cab commission, and after speaking with other people today, I found that she is doing certain stuff behind the scenes to try to get rid of some injustice that was done in this taxi cab commission with certain corruption that's going on. So I ain't come here for that. What we need to do, what we need here in front of us is the board members.
Exactly.
Those board members that have been sitting there for years upon years and have not been implementing and doing the right things on the board. And as far as I know, only about one of them is still eligible to be on the board. So the governor needs to replace those board members and get new board members on there that could do for the taxi industry. But my gripe here today is what is affecting us as taxi drivers, and I am a second generation taxi operator. And right now, our industry is being overrun by what they are calling the so-called limousine. And it wasn't done by the Taxi Cab Commission. It was actually done by this institution. What I have here in 2012, this bill was amended, and I'll go limousine, which are not considered automobile for hire and are exempt from the jurisdiction or application of any rules and regulation implemented by the Virgin Islands Taxi Cab Commission. Limousine service providers are exempt from complying with the provision of any franchise agreement granted to taxi service providers at any Virgin Islands marine terminal or airport, and has the right to transport passengers to and from any airport or marine terminal in the Virgin Islands. This is an abomination upon the taxi industry. And this here need to be repealed and do whatever, because wherever it was before, it need to go back. This open up the doors where we have so-called limousine drivers doing shuttle service in the Virgin Islands. They're running as shuttles. We personally at Eastern Taxi, we had a contract with Dolphin Water Taxi, which we was running for a certain price, which was under a little bit below the tariff. When the taxi thing raised, the tariff raised, we raised our price on them to suit our fares, which was thing. They, in turn, went and negotiate with a limousine company and they take over the job. Right now, I'm understanding that the owner of Dolphin Water Taxi buy their own vehicles now and running the work with private plates. You also have IMI, which used to provide taxi service with work on this island. They are now buying vehicles and running. With this law, any hotel could go and get a limousine license and run. And where does that leave us as taxi drivers? Okay? So this is something that needs to be addressed immediately. We also have infringement and sorting in our organization. Everybody, I know we are all taxi drivers, but all of us need to get together on one scale and start to do for each other. Because guess what? You might get a job today or tomorrow. You want to come Eastern, overrun Eastern, do whatever you want, pick up as you want, do what you want. I need some guidelines. With this limousine thing, though, going back to this, because this is what it is I really here for today. We need them to be regulated. Could anybody tell me what is the specs on limousine in the Virgin Islands? Could anybody tell me what is the fare for a limousine to transport from Red Hook to the airport? Could anybody tell me answer those questions? Hello? You didn't hear me?
It's not regulated. It's not.
So, therefore, it is need to be regulated. What's this? They have.
The timekeeper is trying to show we're staying within the time and
Okay. Okay, I don't know what my time. I didn't know what my time.
The timekeeper is trying to make sure we stay within the boundaries of what we said, 5 minutes. But please put on the timekeeper's mic.
Can we donate him any of our time?
Testing.
Go ahead. You go ahead and speak on it.
Testing.
Continue on it.
All right.
Testing.
Okay, again, we are allowed to have 2 medallions if we want to buy 2 medallions, and that's it. A limousine operator they don't even have they don't operate on a medallion. They have 1 business license and they operate 120 cars, as much as they want. That's unfair to us as taxi drivers, and I will pass the mic on.
The chief tours.
When it I take up all the time, I'll go around.
The next testifier, please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Annette Morphus.
Mic number 2. Mic number 2,
Testing,
please, media. And come up a
Testing,
little bit,
testing.
Miss. Go ahead.
Testing.
Oh, we could hear
1,
you
2.
good. You're
testing.
coming through
Wonderful.
loud and clear.
All right.
Continue.
Okay, good evening. My name is Annette Morvis. And the reason why I came up here this evening was for one reason. If the people to whom we are speaking are not here to listen to us, I heard you saying the pen is mightier. Yes, than the sword, yes, and I know that, but we would still like to face them face to face, because this is where some of our problems are coming from. So we need to speak with them, to them, and all around them. So we need to have their presence, and this is why I came up, was to ask to have this meeting postponed until we can have those who heirs. We need to be open to hear our cries.
Okay, so we can call them in the future. No, this committee has called them in before. And what occurred in those meetings, if you saw it televised, was Miss Gums said that she couldn't speak. And she said she couldn't speak. And then Miss Lloyd was speaking on her behalf. But we can call them in again, okay, in a more formal setting. But one of the reasons why we wanted them, we asked them to be here. They chose not to, and definitely they are going to see that pen being strike regarding their no-show. But we can and we will call them in the future again, because it's really unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and it shouldn't be tolerated that you as taxi drivers are not getting any satisfaction from them relative to your service. So we will be doing that again.
Well,
Then there's sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I would really like to say, if we can get such disrespect, we probably should be withholding our fees. We should probably be withholding whatever business we have to do with them until they can hear us, because we need to be heard. We're not here, we didn't leave what we have to do just to come and sit. I mean, we appreciate you all being here, but we also need to have them here. That's the purpose that we're here.
Right.
And we don't want to, we don't necessarily need Ms. Gums to speak, because, like you said, we know that she's new and she has inherited a lot of mess, if you want to put it that way. So we're not looking for Ms. Gums one-on-one to speak. We would like her to be present, but we are looking for the board members that have been there for eon years to speak. We would like to dialogue with them. Thank you. Oh, I still have a little time?
You want to conclude, or you're fine with that time, Ms.
Yes, I'd like to
Morvis?
conclude because I have to leave. I have prior arrangements, but I really wanted to say thank you all for listening to us. Thank you all for being here. And please, I'm asking you all, don't forget, next year, and this is not a threat, this is just a statement, next year is a voters' year. So we are looking. We have not just the taxi drivers, the few thousands of us. We have our families, we have our friends, we do have a lot of voices, and we have a lot of influence. So we would also like to have the board. I know the board is selected by the governor, appointed by the governor, but we would like to, since it's representing us, Since the taxi board is representing the taxi association, we would like to elect who we would like to be on that board. Because we don't need people there that's not representing us. We don't need people there that's not standing up for us. We don't need people there that we cannot dialogue with. We don't need people there who have no say concerning the taxi association. Some of them have no idea what goes on in taxi. And they don't know what taxi is about. They should not be on the board. We need people there that's in our interest, our best interest. Who do we run to if we have a problem? And we need this law on the limousine from 2012 that was placed there. This is not the first time that, or the second time that we're coming here concerning this, and we would like this to be resolved.
Healed.
Yes.
Okay, now.
Repeal.
Now,
Thank you.
I got several things, and you said a lot, Ms. Movis, and I welcome it because you're making some point. You see, when you're having these kind of dialogues, it's not just for those individuals who are working at a taxi cab. We are the lawmakers. We can write the law on what dictates that they do. And that is also one of the things and reasons that we had this meeting. That's a strategy. We wanted to hear your concerns, hear your resolutions to some of the, because you know best. You know better than us how to resolve issues that are happening in the taxi cab industry and what needs to be done to fix it. Okay? And so we really value your input this evening. And just don't think because the representative from the Taxi Cab Commission are not here means that action isn't taking place. That's why we are here listening keenly to you. And I'm taking notes and we have backup notes. So thank you so much for that. Colleagues, you have any questions? Well, we finish everything. Ms. Moves, do not leave if we can, or if you need to go, you can. But we're going to go on with the others. Next testifier, mic 3.
Kerry.
Yes, Kerry Harrigan, Best Taxi. It's only a few issues. Kerry Harrigan, Best Taxi. Just a few issues I'm with the Taxi Cab Commission. One of the things is fees. In the past, I've requested a list of the fees, how long they've been there, how they've been written. I haven't got any satisfaction to date. Just a slight example, Senator Joseph. If you are late with your medallion lease, let's say it expires on the 30th of September, and you're going on the 1st of October, you're charged a $300 late fee, plus $50 because a new month has started.
Yeah.
It expires September 30th, and because you go on October 1st, it's $350 initially, and $50 a month after that for being a day late.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
That's in a regulation that you receive when you get your taxi medallion?
No.
Do you?
No, I've been asking for it in writing. I haven't received it yet.
Is that it's not delineated in any writing? Because
No,
if
I don't
that's
see.
part of their policy, they should have been able to share it with you from the inception when you get your medallion. So that's not written. Nobody has ever seen that written in any document.
I didn't see it, no.
I have never seen it.
And how
Just
long you been a
charge you.
taxi driver?
21 years.
How many?
21.
21, and you've never seen that?
No.
Okay. And anyone else has seen a document that states what Mr. Harrigan indicated, that if you're late, your taxi medallion expires the 30th of this month?
Your lease, a letter of lease. Your
You-
lease
you
is somebody
lease-
else's.
and you lease it to somebody else.
Right.
They are now being charged like $300 they have to pay. So
One
people
time.
have seen that in writing from the Taxi Cab Commission?
Never seen it. It's not in writing, but it's implemented.
Okay, noted. You had another item to say, Mr. Harrigan? You want
Yes.
to continue?
Also, I was a victim of this about a month or two ago. I purchased a medallion. I was asked to bring the plates in of I was renting the same medallion I purchased. I was asked to bring the plates in off of the vehicle. Took them in, and I was told I have to wait until Ms. Gums is ready to finalize the sale to get my plates back. Therefore, I had to park my vehicle up for almost 3 weeks, waiting on just a sign over the medallion from the seller to the buyer. for about 3 weeks. I've known drivers that wait longer than that, just for a transfer. And while this is happening, you're incurring penalties while waiting on them. If it expires during their time having you wait, they'll charge you penalties on top of that. I've also been a victim of that while Ms. Gums has been there. Another thing is they're interpreting the laws, some written laws that I've seen, how they want to, and enforcing them by how they feel it should be, not what's in black and white. They have enforcement officers that are doing their duty work when we have these big cruise ships in town.
Yep, big
They're
problem.
sitting at the desk all day doing secretary work as law enforcement officers when you have thousands of tourists on our streets. These are all issues that need to be addressed and fixed. Another issue we have, we all know about supply and demand. You have taxi drivers retiring, moving away. Some are passing, dying. We haven't had a class in what, 3-4 years?
Ages.
So now the demand
Pandemic.
is way exceeding our supply as far as the taxi drivers are concerned. So now the tests.
That's a taxi driver's class you're talking
I'm
about.
referring to
yeah.
like the class for new drivers, to hire new drivers, or give new business taxi drivers licenses. They will give 100 tests a year. That doesn't mean they're giving 100 licenses for that year. Only those 10 might pass. So those 10 new licenses, and you have 50 drivers who are leaving the job. So these are some issues that need to be addressed with Taxi Cab Commission. A question I have to ask: is St. Thomas, St. John one district? It's still one district?
To my knowledge, I don't think we are. No, yeah, we are one St. Thomas, St. John
So
district.
my question is, if we're one district, if I have a Class C license, which is a chauffeur taxi license, why can I drive, if I have a St. John, took my test in St. John,
Well, you can't.
but there's no work in St. John for me, and there's work in St. Thomas, I'm not bringing my vehicle down. I'm bringing my body and my badge to show I'm a licensed chauffeur taxi driver. Why can't I work on both islands if we're one district?
Time.
These are things that need to be addressed also.
Senator Blyden, you wanted to make a statement?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I must say, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. And Senator Joseph, I know you're the chair, and I appreciate you having this town hall. But I know Mr. Smith spoke to not being too hard on Ms. Gums. But many of these policies and structures that I'm hearing was not there before. They were not there before. So my thing is, honestly, moving forward, we really need to not only deal with the board, but we need to deal with the director and see what's going on in that space, because there are a lot of changes that affects those drivers and the way they operate. So I look forward to us doing what we got to do to get her in here and have these individuals at the table at the same time. And we do what we need to do in terms of restructuring, getting the board restructured, writing some to the governor to do what he needs to do, because this is our industry, whereas everyone deals with a taxi driver when they come, and when they leave, they deal with taxi drivers. So it's too critical for us to continue on this path. And at the appropriate time when everyone speaks, I'm going to speak to the legislation in terms of limousine and restructuring that whole industry. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator Blyden. Mr. Harrigan, you want to wrap up?
One more issue I'd like to touch on.
Okay.
I've had drivers that work within Best Taxi who take vacation every year, probably a month or 2 months at a time. I have one particular driver. He has 2 vehicles, and they both are 9, which are due to register in September. What he did in the past, he knew he's not going to be here for August, he's not going to be here for September. He will pay his 2 license fees in July before he goes away. That practice, Ms. Gomes doesn't want to hear about. So what happens now, he would leave, and when he comes back, guess what?
Late
There are two
He
late
has-
fees
he
they're
has
waiting on
late
him.
fee and plus the penalties.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is revenue that the government.
And that's my concern, that it is not placed in writing so you know precisely what the rules are, what the parameters are, because then they are arbitrarily and capriciously making up things. Okay? Has it been passed by the board? Has it been, so, because they can't arbitrarily implement any new policies and rules, right? Unless it's been passed by the board.
You're saying the board, Senator Joseph.
Yes.
But guess who when you go to them, guess who they blame for all that's being done down there?
The executive, us?
The legislature.
Oh, so they said we are at fault?
They call the legislature quite often.
So how are we at fault? We are not operating down there.
No, they say the laws have to be passed through this body here. They tell us that all the time. All the time.
So,
Pass laws against
yeah,
us.
that's just like Adam and Eve, you know?
I'm just informing you of what we've been told.
It's true. They were passing the buck all the time and saying is the devil when it's them. Okay, so you have never seen any of these rules.
Maybe you could probably use your powers here, whatever, to get
We did ask them.
these.
Let me tell you something. We did ask them for the rules and the regulations. You know, I've asked them. We subpoenaed them. Also, their minutes. They did supply some of their minutes at their board meetings, but it isn't anything substantive. Okay, so we will continue to follow up with them. Okay, and have other hearings, but we really have some legislation that we're looking at dismantling the board and putting the whole entire operation back on the DLCA so that they could fix it a bit, and then we come back over again to the Taxi Cab Commission. And so that is something we are contemplating, because we're seeing that a lot of some of the issues are with the board, and it doesn't have, like Ms. Movis said, the representation from the taxi cab industry on the board level. I think it's only one person who is there with whose term hasn't expired, and that's Mr. Brathwaite. He was confirmed in 2021. You remember Mr. Brathwaite, Frankie
Yes.
Brathwaite, right? So, and he's a taxi cab operator, taxi cab man. So, or he's retired, but he was. Okay. Anything you want to add, or we can go forward with the next speaker? Ms. Moves, we're not moving backward.
Can I just like to conclude by saying, if she's sick, I wish her the best. But how can you be sick and every day in the office working, but too sick to come here?
And say thank you to the secretary.
And we're very grateful for the one person that tries her best and does everything. That's Miss Carol Joseph. She does everything in that office. The other young lady resigned and so it's Carol alone now. They're doing everything.
We
So
appreciate her very much.
thank you for your time, Senator.
And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and outlining these challenges that you have. Next is a gentleman.
Yes, good evening.
Oh, good. The mic is on. Kindly state your name.
Good evening, Stephen Lewis, Champion Taxi and Tours. I also work with Best Taxi.
You may continue, Mr. Lewis.
My number one complaint is about the board. Because from the last legislation that you all said you're going to pass, which gave the executive director more power, she's still under the board, governed by the board. How can we have a chairman of the board that doesn't even live here? Are you aware of that?
She indicated, we did ask her that question. She said her resident is in St. Thomas.
She doesn't live here. Everybody knows that.
We know she doesn't live here, but she said her residence is in St. Thomas. I'm just letting you know what she said.
Okay, her residence is here, but she's never here. So how can you be a chairman of a board if you're never here? Okay? My colleagues before me that spoke before hit on a lot of things that I would have liked to have said also. So it doesn't make sense to go over that again. Okay? Enforcement.
Raise your mic. There you go.
Enforcement. There is lack of enforcement for the benefits of the taxi driver. But let the taxi driver do something. There's enforcement there right away.
Oh, yeah.
Give an example, Mr. Lewis, so we could clearly
Okay.
understand.
You have gypsy taxis overrunning the island illegally. But let a taxi driver be running a route with an expired business license. They're right there to pull him over.
No insurance.
You understand? Another thing with the enforcement, you call, you take pictures, you send them to the taxi commission, which they ask you to do, nothing is ever done. You call the enforcement officers themselves, and they say, well, there's nothing we can do because they have us here in the office working. My understanding, I'm used to be a law enforcement officer myself. Illegal acts is illegal acts. If a police officer sees an illegal act, isn't it upon them to move forward and intercede in it? If you have, go on. If you have an incident going on, let's say a private car, a gypsy taxi is picking up passengers, and you bring it to the attention of a police officer that's right there, he's going to tell you, well, hey, that's not my job. I say, but he's doing something illegal. Well, you got to take it to the taxi commission. Those things are wrong. An illegal act is an illegal act. When it comes to the fees and the different stuff, the taxi commission has a booklet that they say is outdated. For 2 years now, they're supposed to be bringing out a new one. I have not seen that. And in the rules and regulation booklet, there's nothing about fees and stuff like that. Something has to be done with our taxi industry. Senator Fonseca briefed me a little earlier about what you said, bringing the taxi cab under DLCA. To me, that would be a big mistake.
Exactly.
Because they are now issuing licenses for limousines and jeep tours. That's another problem we have. Okay? Nobody regulates these things. Nobody pays attention to these. These are direct competition to us, the taxi drivers. And they don't have to pay the fees and go through what we have to go through, the regulations. That's totally unfair. You know, I'll wrap up by saying what all of us as taxi drivers, Miss Joseph, you know, without her, we would be in a grave. Because about a month ago, Miss Gomes was out. Miss Gomes was there, Miss Joseph was out. Nothing could be done. Ms. Gomes even doesn't know how to go in the computer to pull up a form for you to fill out. Come on. Yeah. They never have print in the printer. But every month they collect these thousands of dollars from us. Okay? We have to do something. I feel by putting it under DLCA, that's like kicking the can down the road. We need serious people to be appointed in the taxi cab commission. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Donna Fred Gregory. Okay, next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mazen Mohammed. What I would like to address today, basically, what I noticed being a taxi driver is it's kind of like a monopoly, basically, because there's nothing for the younger generation. To me, you have an age limit to start at 23 and above, and you still got to wait the waiting list to get your taxi license, or when they get the act straight down there. And you have the younger generation waiting in line for how long just to get in as a taxi driver. And also, they should have a cut-off limit, because to me, if you 70 and above, I don't know, basically, and you're charging people for a bag and you can't pick up that bag, you shouldn't be taxing. When the sun goes down, you at your house, that you get customers in the night that call in taxi services and nobody able to pick them up. So basically, what I'm trying to say, like, you gotta give the younger generation a chance, and it like how you have a start-off limit, it should have a cut-off limit. Not some of these guys, if I tell them I'm gonna drop you a pin, they don't even know the meaning of a pin. You got so much Airbnbs out there that these older folks like, where? And they can't find it, they're looking for the house for 2-3 hours. That's not fair. And that's why the younger generation right now are doing what they could to try to walk. So when they're claiming limousine or they're claiming Jeep tours, give them opportunity to open the taxi so they could be able to come in. Not limited. Do this. I went to the classes, and I guarantee you, I do better tours than a lot of people here. I ain't trying to brag, but when I go Drake seat and hear people say, oh, that's Michael Jordan house. Michael Jordan who? Where's his house? You tell him about Megan's Bay. Who's Arthur Fairchild? I guarantee you. Nobody could tell me who's Arthur Fairchild. I know you could tell me. I mean, you got some. But you got some people, you know how they get the tours? By cutting the price. Not because they don't know the history of the island, which is bad. And to me, it need to enforce classes. Like, give them 3 questions. You come register, here's 3 easy questions. If you can't answer that, brother, go class. Please. So basically, I just try to say, these younger generation, yes, they're doing the Jeep tours, they're doing this, they're doing that, because there's no other opportunity given to them. Give them a chance. If you're 70 and above, retire, relax. You can't pick up the bag, you can't see after dark. What are you doing taxiing? You waited to go down Mountain Top Hill, full load of passengers? You don't know what could happen. It's same how you have a start-off limit, have a cut-off limit. Give opportunity to the other generation. Not have it as a monopoly. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed.
You're welcome.
We'll now hear from the next speaker. Please state your name.
My name is Eldon Dane Francis, and I'm the owner of Four Virgin LLC. I would like to start off to say thanks for having us, and thanks for having me. But I would be also open to say I'm very disappointed with our senators. I said it earlier, and I'm saying it again. Why? Because our senators are promising a lot of things. I'm not saying that they can just wave a magic wand and it's going to happen. But I believe for what we have been going through over the past number of months with this industry that has been creating so much problem for us, I think it's about time that something should be done. A couple of days ago, and Miss Joseph that is sitting here, she can tell you, I wanted to change my vehicles into my business name. It took me 9 days just for a signature. And today, I had to rush over to BMV in order to get that vehicle license. I'm a business person. And because of that, I have to make sure that my business operates in the right perspective. But for the kind of hardship that we are encountering as taxi drivers, sometimes I wonder about our senators if they really have us as taxi drivers at heart. Are we just push on the side and are waiting until such opportune time come when there is election? I feel that we have been neglected. Yes, many of us have been speaking about we being the first persons that you see in the last. Well, sometimes I wonder if we are ever in sight at all. And I also want to talk about whereby we have asked, when I sat sometime earlier this year, concerning the safari buses. And up to then, none of the senators have even come back to say to us, well, let me say then to me, this is what has been going on. If I have a 2017 bus, it is good to go maybe for 5 years, 6 years. But if I have a 1997 bus and it's a 27-seater and I need to get it on the road or replace it, I am not getting that opportunity. They're telling me I have to cut it down to 20 seats. Up to earlier today, the ships that are coming, they're coming with larger capacity and much more to the point of larger boats. What are you doing to help us as taxi drivers? Again, do you want us to go up the hill with a 1997 bus or whatever it is and are not able to stop because we are not given the opportunity to change and to refit and to be at least on the road where we can have the opportunity to be comfortable driving our passengers? They are asking for safety. They are asking for many things. Senators, please help us. The Taxi Cab Commission, they don't care about us. I've been a part of the board, and they're quick to get me off. I'm not afraid to say it, because I was not standing for any nonsense. But you know what happened? The people that are there now, to me, they're all yes people. And they have Mrs. Gums like a little yo-yo getting around. That is the way I look at it. They don't help us as taxi drivers. I am a business person. There are other people here. that are also business people, and they would like to see a change as to what is going on. You said earlier, the pen is mightier than the sword. I don't know if the ink has run out.
Time.
Thank you.
Well, the ink ain't running out here. As you can see, I'm taking notes and I have backup notes. I just want to remind the persons in the gallery to just practice some decorum and restraint. You don't have to applause. I know what they're saying is really good and it resonates with you because you all are definitely in the trenches and you feel the pain every day with what is happening or not even happening for the taxi cab, but just hold on the applause if you can, please. We definitely would appreciate it. Mr. Mohammed, I wasn't going backwards. I didn't go, I was...
I no disrespect. I have something to do. I just want to tell you I have to leave.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, you're released. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
You guys have a good night.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, my bad.
Okay. The next gentleman.
Good evening. My name is Cord Richards. I'm coming from St. John. When you were in St. John, I spoke to you. You asked me to reach out if my issues wasn't rectified.
Mike, go ahead, Mr. Richards.
You can hear me now? Yeah, so when you came to St. John, I explained to you guys what my issue was. I even reached out to Welkers.
It's still happening. Are we talking to them?
Still happening.
It's still happening.
In 8 months, it's going to be 2 years since I tried to get my replacement medallion. That's going to be 2 years of loss of wages. When I was young, I wanted a pair of Adidas shell top, right? I said, Mom, my mother said, if you want them, you got to go get a job, right? I went to get a job. I've been doing stuff for myself from then. So I have to be begging people for stuff I'm paying for. I paid them $1,030. $1,030.
Okay. Start from the beginning so we could get some history because we have members who may not be completely following you in what you...
I have my taxi license from 1995.
Right.
I relocated to Georgia in 1999. I moved back home in 2019. My father died, like the man on the end say, it's generation. It's going from generation to generation. I did all my paperwork. So when I came here, I asked about building a brand new bus. They say, call DMV. DMV tell me call taxi commission. So I scratched that one. So I finally find a bus. I got the bus. So then when I went to register the bus, they asked me for the medallion. But being so, the Hurricane Irma, my parents' homes got damaged and they got misplaced. So they say you have to pay $1,000. It's going to take 30 days. I paid the money. I called, even Ms. Benjamin probably know my name without saying my name. I'm just asking for help.
But I remember your issue, and we were told at that meeting, Ms. George, right?
Yes,
you remember she said, what she tell you and tell us? She is going to meet with you. She's a secretary.
Yes.
Right? Am I saying something wrong?
No.
And they're going to resolve it. Isn't that correct?
Ms. George is not working for Taxi Commission. She's on the board.
Yes, but...
Go ahead.
Let
me speak. She's on the board, right? So I did what they asked me to do, like I've been doing for these past years. I dropped it down there personally. I asked to speak to Ms. Gomes. Ms. Gomes refused to speak to me. Refused to speak to me. I come in, I being nice, I being calm. That really burned the inside of me because I paid you my money, I pay for the thing every year, and I can't get, what's I supposed to do? I got taxes, I got land tax, I got all kind of thing to pay. I need my money. I need to make my money. I paid you my money. So what's the problem? And I turned my paperwork into Ms. Joseph. I made a copy and I took it upstairs to Mona. I made a note in my phone.
I recall vividly, okay, that both Ms. Myrna George and Ms. Gomes at that meeting on June 23rd, when you brought it up, they said that they were going to resolve. I am very surprised to hear that you still having this issue. And we talked about it too. I am very surprised and very disappointed. I'm going to tell you that, Mr. Richards. Because when we left there, and I'm sure you had the same position that they was going to address it and resolve it. They said they're going to take care of it. That was the last thing I remember them saying. And this is very surprising and disappointing. So we are going to have to write them. I could write them, any of the other senators. And I'm sure Senator Bolkes wrote them as well.
So I reached out to Ms. Heiliger, and her secretary told me to come here tonight to voice my issues. But I'm tired of voicing my issues. Like, who's gonna help me? Why are you supposed to go start robbing people and they say it's a bad man? What are you supposed to do?
Unfair, man.
I just need some help. I don't like to beg for help. I need help.
And you're not begging, because it's your tax money that pays us and pays them. That's not begging. You need to get a resolution, because I remember that vividly. That was one of the issues, and they said Ms. George and Ms. Gomes, she couldn't talk, but she was shaking her head in the affirmative, said that they were going. So I am very surprised that you still have this issue from June, July, August, September. We almost 4 months later. Okay, so we're going to follow up with that.
And I need to talk to Ms. Benjamin and Tanya, the good workers down there, and ask them what's going on inside. Because
Tanya's gone.
I know she's gone, but I need to bring her back. Because in most companies, when you leave a company, you need an exit interview. So what is the exit interview telling you about these people? I was asking for help. I want me to sell drugs? I don't want to sell drugs.
No, you don't want to sell any drugs, and we don't want you to be selling. We want you to earn your living legitimately. Thank you so much for coming here, for real, because then I would have thought that you had gotten that addressed. I would have, because we left that meeting with the both of them saying that. Anyhow, let's go to the next person.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, later. Okay.
Pull the mic closer to you, yes.
Hi, good night to all the senators. I have to say I'm very glad that you guys started the town hall meeting. Really don't make too much sense with nobody from Taxicab being here. But I have to voice my opinion to you. This is to the senators, and then I'm going to tell you about Taxicab. Every 2 years, I just stand in a long line. I don't have no privilege or nothing like that. And make sure that I go and I vote. And I'm very happy with you guys, the work that you senators are doing, but I'm very disappointed in you guys, and I'm going to tell you why. With all of this situation going on with the director, you know, you guys bringing them to the budget, she here, they ain't got no information, you bring them back. That's a blatant disrespect to all of you guys that are continuously coming here all the time. Why have you guys not requested or talked to the governor about resignations for the director on the board? You know, they're disrespecting you guys, and they're disrespecting us as taxi drivers as well. I have a little issue with Ms. Gomes. Everybody's saying Ms. Gomes this and Ms. Gomes that. But she is the current director right there. Mm-hmm. Whenever I go in, and I'm speaking for myself, and I don't know if anybody else have the issue, I have been a taxi driver right now for over 13 years, okay? She has all these different rules, and I'm gonna bring up one that I have a real concern about with the tax clearance letter. I don't run a company. I apologize. My name is Nilsa. My company is Live, Love, and Laugh. I also work for In Search Of, and I'm a member of AAA, okay? In my business, I have employees. She insists, and she's telling me I need tax clearance letter for these employees. I'm asking her why. They're only drivers. Why do you need tax clearance letter? That's one thing I have. She said, well, that's the rule. So I said, okay, if that's the rule, can you show me where this rule is? Because I don't mind following rules if you have it written down. I'm also in agreement with Kerry and with Eldon. There is no procedures, nothing. You just go down there, she tells you something, you have to do it. We don't even really have a choice. You know, a lot of us, especially our company, we need a lot of drivers. I don't know how to explain you guys the seriousness of what's going on with taxi cab right now. Number 2, Act number 6595. I need for all you guys to go back and print it, and please take a look at it, because that prevents us from getting 25 passenger safaris. My truck is a 2004. I wanted to buy a brand new truck and use my same back, and they tell me I need to spend money and cut a seat.
Yeah.
Up to now, nobody can get back to me. Everybody talks about the rule, DMV, taxi cab. I said, well, where? Show me where, how I come up with this rule, how I stating that my Safari is too large for the road, too wide, to whatever it is. And I really want to know, because we have some big truck on the road that bigger than my Safari. We have the very Jeep Tours I talking about. This the size of our truck they're driving right on the road. Nobody regulating them. But here it is, I have my business, and I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm getting stopped at every turn. All I'm saying is, our senators need to go. I don't know the procedure. I just talking because I'm just a driver, I'm an outside person. But somebody need to go in. I really don't agree with it going on the DLCA neither. That's my opinion. It just needs to get fixed. Somebody need to go in and straighten it up. Somebody need to be on our side as taxi drivers. We have nobody on our side. Ms. Gomes is not on our side. The board is not on our side. So we're going to lean to what all of you guys do with the board for every 2 years. I have no issues with no senator right now, but right now I'm disappointed in you because I ain't helping us as taxi drivers. I understand I may be writing letters and doing what I have to do, but nothing is being done. That's a blatant disrespect to you guys. Very disrespectful. I really need you all, take this serious. This is like the second time I come in to the town hall meeting here. We voice our concerns with Ms. Gomes, and it's the same again when I come here again.
Yep.
This is not good. This is not good for business. It's not good for us. It's not good for the tourism industry. It's just not good across the board at all. So please help us going forward from today. Please help us. We need a lot of help. Thank you guys so much for hearing me.
Okay, thank you so much. Nilsa, what's your last name once again?
Serrano.
Serrano.
Yes.
Next speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alphonse Stallion. I'm an independent taxi driver, and I've been a taxi driver for 50 years. I only have one thing to bring up, and that's about parking for taxi drivers in the town. I started taxiing in 1998 by the Reese's, AH Reese's on the waterfront. There was parking for taxis, and within the last couple of years, you find out that there's a taxi sign designated. That's one place. There used to be taxi parking by what we used to call by the garden, Continental. Mm-hmm. They were parking down by the market, and there was parking on Main Street. Now, when they did, I don't know if you all was aware of the fact, but there are people sometimes with disabled, and it takes time to park for them to get out of the vehicle. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
There is no parking space. There is no, and I'm going to tell you point blank, I don't speak my mind. There used to be parking space by Sebastian's on Radex Garda. I went to the dude who did the plans for the streets, and he told me, and I am quoting him, the governor gave the dude who is in charge of some business there on Radex Garda permission to cut the street down and pay for it to fix or something like that. And I have it in writing. You follow where I'm coming from? There is no parking by Sebastian as there used to be now. But the thing what brought me here today is where we used to park our cars on the waterfront where it says taxis only. There's a set of taxi signs, about 4 or 5 of them. When you go there to park, you got people park in the morning, and they don't come back to get a car till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it stands to reason when the taxi drivers look to park, they got to park behind them Some of the other guys that come up, they got to park alongside the road, and it becomes difficult for them to find parking space. I went to the police, and they said the legislature got to take care of that. But I want to ask you all a question. Who is responsible for putting up taxi signs in the town? If you all could answer me, I could understand that, and I'll do it myself, because I don't depend on people to look out for my well-being. And these dudes could tell you, when the taxi commission wasn't coming up with a fee schedule, I made sure I went to them in the taxi association. We work on that. Right, Champy? All right. So now, do any of you senators here know who's responsible for the taxi signs in the town?
It's public work.
It's Public Works, and they're in collaboration with the Taxi Cab Commission.
Well, I go say this to you all right now. You all need to talk to the commissioner of Public Works and tell him to get new signs with a designated time, that when you put up a sign say taxi only, it should be for taxis only. And let me say this to you. There are people living in this community who are not tourists coming on tourist ship. And this is what they tell me. Anytime there's not a tourist ship in the town, anybody could park on the parking in the taxi designated taxi only place, right? And I feel this way. There are people that spending big money to come to Airbnb and hotels. And when they want a taxi, they can't find, because the taxis have to be moving around all the time. I don't think we should just depend on the tourist ships, because now the tourist ships don't even come till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time they say they leave in 8 o'clock in the night, the people gone off the street by 6 or 7 o'clock. I only talking about what I know. I don't talk about what I don't know. Most of these dudes, they talk about their problems. They're in taxi association. I speaking for the independent taxi drivers like myself, and I am an independent taxi driver. And before there was taxi association, there was only one. That was the VI taxi. My father was one of the stockholders in the VI taxi. And when he tell me about buying a taxi, I tell him no. But then he said you could have it. I said, no, I don't want to drive a taxi because I'm working for the government. I was the deputy commissioner. At the time, I was the director of budget. And I didn't want to get into no problems with nobody see me driving a taxi in the day. I taxied in the night by Normandy Bar and Oceana around that side. You follow where I'm coming from? I don't deal with trouble, and I believe in obeying the law. But we need to find place for the taxi drivers to park in the town, and not only think on the tourist ship, think on the people who come in and stay in the hotels. Another little thing I want to bring up. When you're going to Frenchman Reef, it's now called the Western. Why is there a big yellow length of board along blocking the government street? Because I know as a young boy, we used to have a hotel up there on the hill named Flamboyant. I don't know much how you could know about it, right? But you could have drive straight down to Morningstar Beach. Why they got this big sign stopping people and asking them questions when you're on a public road? I don't mind if they put the little piece of yellow wood, what they got down at the entrance to Western, but not in the government road, stopping people, public people from driving on the government road. When you tell people that these kind of things, they don't think you don't understand what you're talking about. But you all need to take a drive out Frenchman Reef, or Western as it's called now, and see if they don't stop you and ask you a whole barrage of foolishness. You understand? I finished with the discussion because I only wanted to come here to discuss about taxi parking. I could handle the rest with what you call it, with taxi commission. You follow? Because this about the first time I know about a meeting with the legislature relative to taxi. They might have had in the past. But do you all remember, we got to the Taxi Association and got our meetings for the fee schedule where we wanted them. Right around, Champy. Yes. You see? Sometimes you got to take the initiative and do things for yourself. And personally, I will only ask the legislature to do something about the laws for parking. And you told me that is the Commissioner of Public Works responsible for that, right? Okay, thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Over here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stalliard. The gentleman over here in the white shirt.
Taxi driver. I'm also a law enforcement officer. I work for the Taxi Cab Commission for over 8 years. And I work under Jackie and under Judy Whitley. And as the laws in town, basically the laws are so old because the law says that if there is no ship, you could park at the taxi stand. Because one thing I do, anywhere I go to work, I study the law. Because when I go to court, I don't want to look like a mumu. Now, when it comes to the safaris now, there is no law that says it can't be below 25. No law. I have it right here. Act 6570, Act 6995, and Act 6635. I either do my study before I talk. I spoke to Senator Dwayne DeGraff on Monday, and we tried to resolve that issue, which is that there is no law because Judy Whitley wrote to the AG on that same matter, and that AG wrote back to her and told her that you must go to the legislature to get it fixed. You can't. Taxi Cab Commission is not a law-making body. It's an enforcement body. They cannot make laws just like that. It must come to the legislature so the legislature could verify whatever they do with the law. I work there. I know the law. I could run Taxi Cab Commission with my eyes closed. I'm telling you that because I have learned. Miss Joseph, her sister were there, and I could do anything in Taxi Cab Commission. I left because I had better opportunities. But they are doing a human job down there. I could tell you that. Enforcement, I used to be in Red Hook. Late night, the gypsy used to be running. Ask Allen Taxi Man there. I'll give you a ticket. I'll give you a warning first, but I'll give you a ticket. I don't play around with my job. Because the taxi industry is very important to the Virgin Islands, and we cannot let it go down. We have a lot of old safaris on the road that need to be off the road because of the age. And if you have a 25, why are you going back to 20? When we have a biggest cruise ship coming here January, February, 8,000 people, how are we going to move those people? How are we going to move those people? Are we going to destroy St. Tom, the Virgin Islands, because we can't move those people? Because if we cannot move them, they're going to give us a negative review. Because they want to move. And I think that we should have, well, basically, we should have the opportunity to upgrade our business. The Arab upgrading their business. They could build all kind of gas station. The Indian could build all kind of stores. And I think it's discriminatory that the Taxi Cab Commission will tell us that we can't build a 25 passenger. It's discriminating. Discriminate against taxi because what? We black. I'm going to say it as it is. We black and we small black people. But the Arab, them, they colorful and the Indian have money. We don't have the money to give them. It's time the senators need this to change. Act 6695, Act 6570, you all got to read it. And the thing is that we have, well, people who build a safari. And if they alone have to build a safari, anybody could build a safari, but only one person could certify a safari. I could build my house by myself, but I have to get a licensed plumber to certify my house. Now with a safari, now we have a problem. And I have seen the problem that when it was built, the wheelbase was too short, and they have 2 extra seats behind. That was one of the problems. But now we have vehicles that have longer wheelbase that will handle the road. And I think that the senators right now, we need to help the taxi drivers. Those who want to expand the business, let them expand the business. And I thank you all for coming. I'm looking, you know. I'm looking because most of you, I talked to most of you already. You know what I'm saying? But is this happening? What's happening? And let me tell you something. I ain't going to blame Ms. Gomes. I ain't going to blame nobody. But the senators have to put their foot down. They have, when they were building, the Arabs were building all these gas stations, they put a moratorium on them. Well, how can you put a moratorium on a gas station and taxi you all don't want to do the same thing in a different way? We got to do different because tourist is the #1 industry in the Virgin Islands. And if we lose that industry, that we cannot move those people when they go, because sometimes when they have all these people, they don't have enough taxi. They don't have enough taxi. And what are they going to do? Bad review. And what will happen to us? We need to make money like everybody else. Everybody, we need to make money. And my concern is today, that the 20 and the 25 seat, that's my concern. If you build a 25, what you need to do, put a moratorium on it for a while. But if you have an old Safari, a 1999, take it off the road. Because when an accident happens, first thing they're going to say, oh, the taxi. No. Some of these guys are really old. They cannot handle a big Safari. They are really old. That's when the accident happens. You can't blame the Safari. Blame the people who drive in. Blame the Taxi Cab Commission. As somebody said, there's an age limit to cut off or go to a smaller vehicle. That's all I have to say this afternoon.
Again, let's practice some decorum. Okay, so Mr. Bernard,
Bernard Moyes.
Moyes. Okay, I have one of the acts here in front of me, Act 6570. It's in section 11. First, the Act 6570. It did say if it was greater than 20 passengers, right, unless such a vehicle was a registered vehicle on the date of enactment. And this particular act was enacted on December 18, based on what my staff has, September 18th, based on what my staff 2002. Then it was amended. It was amended by Act 6595, and it reads, this is what it was amended. It reads in the Section 3, Act number 6570 is amended in Section 11 by designating the existing language as subsection A by striking not and by striking unless such a vehicle was registered vehicle on the date of enactment of this act, where it appears and inserting in lieu thereof only if the owner of a Safari, Surrey, or other tour bus type vehicle to be registered was the owner of such vehicle on the effective date of this act, and by adding a subsection B to read, nothing in subsection A, which I read before, may be construed as prohibiting the owner of a Safari, Surrey, or other tour bus type vehicle that was registered on the effective date of this act from registering another such vehicle. So that means if you had a vehicle or equivalent seeking capacity anytime after the effective date of this act. So that means that if you had a bus, a Safari already that was a 25 passengers, so to speak, and you want another 25 based on my understanding, you are now able, based on this section, that's not what they're doing.
No.
It says here, right, notwithstanding subsection A may be construed as prohibiting the owner of a Safari, Surrey, or other tour bus type vehicle that was registered on the effective date of this act from registering another such vehicle of equivalent seating capacity. That means that if you were owner, based on my understanding, of a 25-seater, you were supposed to be able to register your vehicle anytime after the effective date of this act. And this act was enacted on July 24th, 2003. Is that your understanding, Mr. Francis? Because you are saying that you have owned a Safari, and I'll come to you next, that you have owned a Safari before this bill was enacted that was greater than 20, and they're telling you that you can't register additional Safaris that you have purchased subsequently that is of the same equivalent.
That is correct, ma'am.
And is your understanding that you are allowed to register those vehicles because you had one before this law was enacted, and this law allows you now to purchase vehicles of, right? Did you have one before this, before 2003, that was greater than 20 capacity?
Yes, I have like 3 vehicles of that capacity. I would have purchased another vehicle in order, as I'm saying, it's a 2008, and I think that was structured then.
Okay,
What
we
I'm saying,
can't
I'm not too
hear.
certain.
One moment, Mr. Francis.
Okay.
Pull the mic to you, because we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, repeat what you're saying. You
What-
had first you had a vehicle that you purchased that was greater than the 20 passenger capacity before 2002.
That's correct.
Okay, and so now you bought additional vehicles greater than the 20 passenger, because based on my understanding, and I guess your understanding as well, you can do that because you had already owned.
That's correct.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And now you are not allowed to register your vehicles.
That is correct. Sitting in my driveway now for over 6 months.
Okay, that's what I understand. So you and I are in sync, because the law base here does say that, because you are one of the owners. It says it here clearly. It says, okay, a owner, right? It can be construed as prohibiting. And so I don't understand why they're making up these rules. The act, the law, no rules or regulation supersedes a law. That's problematic. So who is telling you can't register? BMV?
Between the DMV and the Taxi Cab Commission.
You got, okay.
Sorry. The DMV and the Taxi Cab Commission.
Okay, wait, let me just note down.
DMV don't have nothing to do with that. If the taxi cab commission don't
Well,
approve
again,
it,
Let's one at a time,
I am
gentlemen.
saying that whatever information then would have gotten from the DMV, because they would have to say to them there that he's authorized to register this vehicle.
Yeah. he
And
said he's-
when
he says it here.
They
this
don't
is
send-
not happening,
if they don't send the approval
they,
letter, you
they,
can't do it.
they just do whatever they choose to do, and that's how I look at it.
Okay, thank you so much. We are clear. We have one person who wants to testify.
Yes,
Kindly state your name.
Cosric Aaron, Senior, in South Job, and also Aaron Tours and Taxi Service. First of all,
Clearly into the mic, Mr. Aaron.
all right, Cosric Aaron in South Job and Aaron Tours and Taxi Service. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for having this meeting. I'd also like to say special thanks to Law Enforcement Officer, Mr. Derek Carlwood, also Ms. Joseph, and also Ms. Mary Luby. They really do assist us in the taxi business a lot. Now, when I'm listening with the safaris, with the 20 passenger and 25 passenger, if I purchase a truck from Mr. Francis, which was a 25 passenger, and they say I got to bring it down to a 20 passenger, the truck or the structure of the truck is not being changed. They want you just to block out the seat. So the structure of the truck is still the same structure of the truck on the road. Now, as they say, hey, these cruise ships are coming larger and larger and larger, and we have to move these people. When you take 5 safaris and you cut 5 seats, that's 25 passengers. And then you're not giving no more medallions, you're not giving no taxi license or anything like that. How are we really going to move the people? I heard all the complaints. We had these meetings before. We've been here. I just want to say, who do we hold accountable? Because the simple fact is, we keep having these meetings over and over and over. You hear the cry. I have the same cry that all these people who testified before me. Me and my wife were dealing with a medallion. And Mr. Serrano got testified to it that it took me 3 months. 3 months for us to get a transfer. Ms. Joseph helped us out a lot. And even sometimes we had to make calls where, hey, just to get a simple signature. A signature. Where in government, we do have electronic signatures and everything like that. I mean, who do we hold accountable for these things?
When did that occur, Mr. Aaron?
That was sincere from me.
This year, May?
Yes. And we just finally got it resolved just about the middle of August.
So what were you told was
It was a whole heap a whole heap of things. Even my wife had to bring her divorce certificate from 2002 to show that she was divorced, even though we provided them a marriage license for me and her when we got married. These are the things
and
that
you got married here?
No, we got married in Miami, in Florida.
Okay, you got married in a U.S.
In a U.S., yes.
jurisdiction. Okay.
Yes. So these are the things.
Okay.
So all I just wanted to say, you all keep hearing it cry. You're hearing the taxi drivers complain daily, in, out. Please, who are we holding accountable? Is it Ms. Combs? Is it the most? Is it the board? We have to. Who are we holding accountable for these things? How much budget hearings have they missed? What is the excuse? How long can a person be sick? Please.
You come. Yes, Mr. Stallion.
When you have a business, and I think with the taxis, the taxi commission is in charge of the rules and regulations. And I, for one, feel that they should have these rules and regulations in a book written down so the taxi drivers can read them. They could know what is the law, what needs to be done when they go to the taxi commission, and it should all be in black and white so there wouldn't be no discrepancies or no problems with what you're supposed to do. When you have it in black and white, it's there in front of you, and you can't change it unless you go through the legal process. So that's my suggestion. They need to have a book of rules and regulations for taxi operation. Plain and simple.
And we have requested those items, including the board minutes. We did get some, but not most or if all of them. And so the question, we raised that question earlier, Mr. Stallion, before you came in. Most of the taxi drivers and operators have never seen any of these rules or regulations.
They're in writing. They're not in writing.
They either just
Just
creating
legislation
them.
that's passed. But if you don't keep abreast with what the law is in something in regards to a pamphlet or a book, everybody going to be up. They got to go to the taxi commission and then they told this, and then the next time they're going to told that, and it's confusion.
It is.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Stallion. Ms. Serrano. Kindly recognize the mic of number 8 mic.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay,
you
you okay. Okay. Basically, the situation with the safari is Act 6595. And I just really want you guys to take some time and take a look at the act. It needs to be changed or it needs to be fixed so I could, what the word is, amend it and change it. That way that we, with the 25, like for me, my issue with taxi cab was I just wanted to change my truck. My truck is a 2004, 25 passenger, and I want a brand new truck to put my same back on it. So it's like, and then that rule came up down in taxi cab. And if you speak to the director at the DMV, she's going to refer right back to the act and tell you, you cannot do it. You are to drive that truck.
But that's not what this act says.
But I'm telling
this
you-
act says that you, as an owner of a 25 passenger, you have the authority to register. It says it here.
Senator
It says-
Joseph.
It says you registered. Registering another such vehicle or the equivalent seating capacity anytime
Senator
after the
Joseph.
effective date. So you should be able to register this 25.
The town hall meeting we had just before this, well, it wasn't a town hall meeting, it was a meeting for taxi drivers. The director from DMV was on the camera. Ms. Bonis, who couldn't talk, were there. You were there.
I remember.
Okay, that rule came up, and that is exactly. She said, no, hold on.
Go
She
ahead.
said, we are to drive that truck until it expire. And then after that, it has to be a 20 passenger. That's when the situation came up with what?
With a lot of people.
Point of information, Senator Fred Gregory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
So as I listen to the discussion around the all of that has been discussed this evening, but this particular issue, because we have to go back and talk about all these other things, right? But just this particular issue, because I'm looking at the law, I had my staff pull it. So the chair is correct. So what we're going to have to do, because we continue to have a circular conversation about this particular piece of legislation. And there is a clear misinterpretation of those who are responsible for the day-to-day operations of the GVI when it comes to administering this law. So what we're going to have to do, this is a commitment that we need to make tonight, that we're going to write to the Attorney General's office and ask them to provide us with an opinion. We have two things to do. I'm not certain what was the impetus for Act 6595, because that was in 2003. That's long before I became a senator. And Act 6570, 2002. We have to figure out whether or not these acts came about because of matters regarding the federal highway safety. Okay, so we have to first establish whether highway safety created this issue. Okay, that's number one. And number two, we need to get an opinion from the Attorney General as it relates to what does this. We could go back and listen to the hearings, because intent is always what matters. Whenever legislation is passed, the intent is what matters. So we need to get an Attorney General's opinion on this particular piece of legislation. We can try to go back in the archives and read the transcript of what was discussed in these particular meetings that caused these pieces of legislation to be passed. But those are two things that need to happen. Because what we're doing, and folks are getting frustrated. I hear Mr. Francis say he vexed with us. And I agree, we have to have movement. So it's time for movement, right? So we need to figure out what is a highway safety issue from the federal government, and we need to get an opinion from, I don't know if it's appropriate, if the law is passed already, to get an opinion from our legal counsel here. But opinions that are already in law, we really need to get them from the Attorney General's office. So that's something that we need to make happen next week. Write the letter to the AG, and we could do that here, saying, hey, what is your opinion on sections 3 and 3B of Act 6595? So we could really understand what this really means, and then determine whether or not we need to make adjustments to the legislation if it is not an issue associated with federal highway. That's my take on this part of the conversation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are welcome. You have a point of information, Senator Blyden?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. In respect to federal highway, I know that it was an issue before for some time, and then Director McIntosh met with federal highway in respect to the safaris, and we had local certified welders in the territory that basically made them able to continue making safaris. So I don't think the issue with federal highway was muted after those meetings. And there are some individuals who are federally certified by those individuals. So I don't think that, that's an issue moving forward.
And I also, just to reinforce what Senator Blyden stated, I remember vividly that the director mentioned that, as well as the chair of the Taxi Cab Commission. They mentioned that they are certified welders who can expand your vehicle, the federally certified. But the question isn't that. The question is, once your vehicle has been expanded by a certified welder, you should, if you are owner of a vehicle before this act was enacted, right, with extended 25 passenger capacity, and you bought a next vehicle, you supposed have the same capacity. You're supposed to be able to register that next vehicle of that same capacity. The act states that.
You don't see that. Yeah, but listen.
No. Do we have an override?
Okay, well, vetoed.
We need to see the document because we pull this from the archives of the legislature and it doesn't say overridden. This legislation was vetoed.
Yeah, but it has an act number on it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It needs to say overridden.
Yeah, but it was by virtue, I am thinking that it has an act number. It would have, but we could find out that and research that. And then also look at what the objection to by the governor was at that time, but but it should have it, but it's by virtue that it's an act, it was overridden. Okay, a couple of hands, but let this young lady, she hasn't spoken yet. She came down from in the well. If she could get an opportunity, Madam Clerk, put it 5 minutes. It's now 8:03. I will go for another hour if my colleagues, 45 minutes, because my colleagues may have questions they want to ask. So, we don't need, we are your servants. We are satisfied to be here, but the work has to be that we have to move things along after this town hall meeting. You are recognized and speak directly into the mic. One moment, your mic isn't on. Media, go ahead and speak and state your name.
Good evening. My name is Yolande Joseph. Thank you for having this town hall meeting, but I'm here listening to everything that's being said, and all the taxi drivers are pretty much voicing their concerns and issues with either taxi commission, the director, as well as DMV. In the interim, what is being placed for us to continue our business? Because now we don't have a choice. We have to pay our fees. We have to do as they say, and we're not being refunded for anything. The guy who hasn't been working for 2 years, is he getting refunded for that time? No. And the issues are not being solved. Is there a timestamp that's going to be given for people to be held accountable on the changes, the revisions, or anything?
Those are very excellent questions, Ms. Joseph. That's why we're taking notes. This is my first time, and my colleagues we are trying our very best. We've called them in. We've had a lot of resistance. I don't know if you know what resistance is, and they are, as one testifier indicated, and it's a fact, they are disrespectful to the body. They're disrespectful, more importantly, in my book, to you who are paying your good hard-earned money so that you could get the services. At the bottom line, that's what it is. So we have to see what we can do, whether it's having a discussion with their head, who is the governor, which he's aware because we reach out to him. We talk to the chief of staff. Okay, so it has to come to an end, because at the end of the day, this is the one industry, one of my colleagues like to say, this is the one industry that we could look around and say that local own this business, this industry. Okay, this is the one. And so we have to see what we can do to continue to preserve it for our local people. And it's not going to take the 15 or even the 5 of us here. We're going to need your help. What do you think we have this meeting? We have a proposal. I mentioned it. Well, it said 5, it's 6. I forgot Senator Bolkes. Forgive me. We have a proposal. I was preempted to really disband. I have to say it. I was preempted by Senator Fred Gregory, but our offices have been working jointly to get it out, to really disband the Taxi Cab Commission. Because we, as your representatives, not only here, we gone down there too. You think we ain't going down there to see what's happening? We're going down there ourselves time and time again. There is what you said is valid. There is no one there collecting the fees. The law enforcement officers are in the air condition. They can't move. They can't go out there and enforce. So those are red flags. And when we have your executive director refusing time and time again to come before us and saying that she has some illness, I appreciate somebody who is ill, but at the same point, they should have a backup. We have backups in here. We should have a backup. So we're going to count. At the end of the day, we're going to count on you. We're going to need you also to be at the table.
And then another thing is, why do we have board members that are not part of the different taxi association? Why can't it be built upon the different taxi associations that are present, that are in it, that knows what's going on, that can actually voice and represent us? Why is it board members that don't know what they're doing?
Okay, that don't understand the taxi cab industry.
It's the same thing. If they don't have the knowledge, they don't understand, they don't know what they're doing. And then another thing is the enforcement. We have the enforcers. We have just 2? When there's 6, 5, 3 cruise ships in, what happens? Down at Crown Bay, we have other associations that are not there that are going in and taking our jobs. And instead of creating rules and enforcing the rules where they can just go behind, because we don't have enough taxi drivers, they could just stand in line and wait their turn. But instead, they're going elsewhere and taking other jobs from the associations that are stationed there. And it's the same thing that's happening over in Havenside, maybe the same things that happen elsewhere. And it goes back to the comment with the limousines as well as the Jeep tours. Their Jeep tours, the driver driving drunk. The driver is playing music. The driver is saying all kinds of things. There are people that aren't licensed that are doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And we don't have enough enforcers to help.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Yolande Joseph. Okay, Senator Fonseca, you had a point of information you wanted to share?
Yes.
You're recognized.
Real quickly, I just wanted to ask Ms. Serrano and Mr. Francis real quickly so I can understand that. Right now, both of you have taxis that are 25 or 27 passengers?
Correct.
Okay. What's the age of your vehicle, Mr. Francis, your 25 passenger?
My older truck. I'm sorry. My older truck is 1997.
Okay, and Ms. Serrano, what's the age of your 25 passenger?
19 years.
Okay, so potentially what I'm understanding is that it's a safety issue because you would like to upgrade for a newer car to make sure that you have a safe vehicle on the road.
I wouldn't say safety, because my truck, I follow everything that I'm supposed to do, make sure that my truck is in very good working condition. But it's to upgrade our businesses. You can't just continue with an old truck. It doesn't look good, We need to upgrade, and it's just not happening.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Seka, we're going to go, if you wanted to continue, we're going
Yes.
to give you 5 minutes, even though you asked for a point of information, and then we'll go to Senator Potter, then Senator Bolkes, then Senator Fred Gregory, and then to Senator Blyden, and I'll go last. Okay? Go ahead. You can continue for 5 minutes to ask any of the drivers any questions you may have.
Okay, yes, thank you. You know, it seems to me that a vehicle over 20 years, you know, traversing the street would have a lot of mileage. How much mileage does your car have, Mr. Francis?
Honestly, I have not checked it, but I know it is a lot of mileage.
Like over 200,000 miles?
Close to that for
And
sure.
Ms. Serrano, how much mileage you?
130.
130,000. So the chairwoman read the law, and it's pretty clear to me, Act 6595, that if you have a 25 passenger, you should be allowed to have another 25 passenger. So that's an enforcement issue that I think can be clarified real easy, because like was stated earlier, the legislative act, the law supersedes those internal regulations. So we can solve that on Monday, because if someone is enforcing something that's illegal, that is something. Okay, but I wanted to get to one particular issue here on why is it taking so long to get the medallions, and you just educate me here. Why do you need a copy of your divorce papers for the medallion? Tell me, why is that needed? Because I have no idea.
She's incompetent. She knows what she's doing.
Honestly and truly, I don't know why, but every time we went in, well, every time my wife went in, you know, it's like, okay, you need this. Come back again, you need this. Come back again, you need another thing. Come back again, you need another thing. Why isn't it that, hey, you give me a paper and say, listen, you need all these documents one time so we can submit it in, and then when we submit it in, hey, we get it. After submitting all the documents, we still had to wait a couple of days. I had to make some calls just to get a signature. A signature.
Okay.
You know,
okay. You finish? I'll let you finish.
No, I'm just saying, just for a signature. At the same time, you know, we run wheelchair tours and everything like that. I have a wheelchair bus park up. Why? Because of a signature or because of all this harassment just to get your vehicle registered?
Yeah. You know, I'm concerned with that. Mr. Francis, I wanted to go back to you again with, you said you were part of the board at one time.
That's correct.
You could speak directly into the mic. So why, what's the reason? Because I've heard testimony that there's more cruise ship passengers. You can't, with less taxis, you can't take the passengers. What's the reason why no new taxi medallions are being given out? What's the reason for that?
Well, for the distribution of medallions, sometime there, I would say, the responsibility of the board, if they're going to have a sale. Truth and in fact, like Mr. Aaron is here saying, if someone is selling a medallion, it does not prevent them from having the necessary signature, especially proving the necessary documents that you have. But that don't seems to be the case. There seems to be a lot of problems that they want to know your entire life story when you're doing something down there now. And I'm saying a simple signature on my business license just to change from out of my name into my business. And it took me 9 days, 8 to 9 days. And I keep going and keep going. And it is so frustrating, I'm not afraid to tell you. And again, I am saying, being a part of the board, I have been sitting there, and when I hear what is going on now, I'm asking myself, so where does this change come by and why did it come by? And like the young lady saying on the side there, they don't want persons who know about the industry to be on the board. I've been a taxi driver. I've been there since 1982. I work in the hotel industry for another 30 years. And I know what it is for service. But that don't seems to be what we get down there at the taxi cab office.
Point
It
well
should
taken.
not be like that.
Point well taken, Madam Chair. Can I just finish? Okay, so I wanted you to
You may
respond
continue.
because earlier, thank you, Madam Chair. Earlier, we received testimony from a taxi driver, Mr. Massa Mohammed, but he had to leave. And he made some statements here that I was very concerned about. So he was saying that the taxi drivers didn't know the history of the island and is in the taxi course. First of all, is there any taxi driver in here that doesn't know the history of the island when they're given a tour?
You do.
Yes.
You do have.
Go ahead. Yes.
You do have books where you can read and learn about the history of the island. And
But
stuff
everybody
like
here,
that. Basically should.
if you give a tour, you can give the
They should,
history of the island,
Yes.
right? Yes,
Everyone
okay.
give a tour differently though, but
Okay,
the
I just
history
wanted to
basically the same.
make sure of that because, just to keep the record clear, because I know the taxi drivers know this island backwards and forward, and I don't want that to get on the record that our taxi drivers don't know the island. That's not particular true. So
Okay.
thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
You are welcome. Senator Potter, if I may be indulged, I saw a young lady who just stepped in here. I don't know if you wanted to say something on the record, but we want to give those opportunities to persons. I know you arrived late. Would you like to say something on the record? Okay, kindly indicate your name and then you may be. Mic 2.
Front row, second.
Mic 2. Okay, try the mic now. Mic 2. Again.
Hi, good
Good.
night. My name is Alba Clark. I'm new to the industry.
What? We didn't get your name.
Alba Clark.
Alva.
Alba with
Okay,
a B
Clark.
as in Bravo. Yes.
Alba.
Yes.
Okay, good. Got it.
I've been taxiing from since 2018 when I first did the class. They had like virtual where they had the class from St. Croix doing it with us. We had a good amount of people in my class. Out of those people were 3 Arabs, okay? They never said a word in class unless the teacher called upon them. One of them couldn't speak a lick of English,
Thank you.
okay? When time came for the test, none of them show up. But then I saw them on the road driving. Okay? Just last month, no, this month, we're still in September. I went to go and do all my registration. I was late. I'm a single mom of 4, so I have a lot to do. Okay? I went to register my vehicle. It took me nearly 2 weeks to get my vehicle registered. Why? Because your director who you put in place was out sick for her throat.
Thing there. We did not put her in.
Not you, but whoever put her there.
Okay.
Right?
This body. I
She
just
was
want.
sick.
I just want
No
to be
problem.
clear.
Okay. Whoever put her
The
there,
board, the
she was out
board.
the board. She was sick, out sick. The other lady was off island, her backup, and there was no one else there for me to handle my business, so I had to wait patiently. Losing days from work, okay?
How many days did you lose to your recollection, Ms.
About 2
Clark?
weeks.
2 weeks?
2
Okay.
weeks, yeah. Safaris, to me, how I see it, is a part of our culture. Over in St. Croix, my grandmother, she taxied for many years. Many years. I don't know how many, but many years she taxied. She has a medallion over there that her and her husband shared, and they're unable to bring it. Well, her husband died, so my aunt is in charge of the medallion, and she's unable to bring it over here for me to at least work it because of all the rules and restrictions that they have, right? They said that I could have gotten it transferred after the hurricane. When I went down in the same office to ask them about it, they told me no. But now, years later, I'm hearing that I could have transferred it due to hardship. They're making up all of these rules, and like you say, nobody writing nothing. You go to DLCA because now I have a van. I wanted to register it as a limousine. They tell me I have to change the seats, put in a mini bar, put in 3 TVs. Okay? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
I'm a millennial, right? And when I take these passengers to do tours, these tourists, they'll ask you questions, but they already know the answers because they can Google it. When they go on tours, they want to see our island, not just what everyone else is seeing. I can't take them past the schools. Cancrane doesn't have a home no longer, and I saw that as a landmark on the island, a historical landmark. Charlotte Amalie is on the track, so now when I pass them by and I'm showing them all of that, like, that's embarrassing. You have a bunch of buildings that's broken down, like, it's embarrassing. They don't want to go up mountaintop all the time. They want to see the island. They want to see the culture. How am I supposed to show them that? How am I supposed to feel good to go out here and taxi when it is I can't even go down into the office and get everything done within at least 2-3 days? I could say, you understand? Because ain't everything is perfect. We're all human, but I should be able to go down there and receive service and not be discriminated against. I've been hearing from the time I came in about this Uber business. They kept saying they're not going to be able to bring Uber. I know one hand to wash the next, and who it is grease my hand, I go and deal with them first, right? I am going to wait to see what's going to happen, because just how they want to cut off the capacity for the safaris, they're going to start limiting other stuff, and that's going to end up happening. They said they couldn't do it before because of GPS. GPS works down here. So it will only take a matter of time before that comes in. And then everybody go and turn a blind eye and say they don't know how. I seen it. It really looking like that's what it is going to happen.
Okay, so we have time. We have senators who just make it brief, and this is the last question, and I'm entertaining, and then we're going to move on to Senator Potter, okay? And then you are free to answer his questions. Quickly, Mr. Lewis.
About the medallions and the classes. How is it that I have children? I have 2 medallions. If I pass on a medallion to one of my children, they can't get in the class. I feel that when a person owns a medallion, that should be an automatic. You're the owner now, that should be an automatic. Right. I know people that own medallions that have been passed down to them and cannot get a taxi license. And that's a fact. Another thing, my last question is, why is it that they try to limit your business, saying that I have a safari, but I can only have 1. I cannot have more than 1 safari. Okay, I had a 14-passenger safari. I upgraded to a 27-passenger. They told me I had to get rid of the 14-passenger before I can get permission to have my 25-passenger.
So, Mr. Smith, Mr. Lewis, you could only own 1 safari with your 1 medallion?
That's what they told me.
Okay. I thought it was 2.
I'm only permitted to own 1 safari.
No, it's 2 based on my understanding.
It's 1 safari, it's 1 taxi per medallion.
So how come The limousines.
If you got two medallions, you have two safari.
Limousines is private.
But is one each medallion number is one taxi.
Okay, but
One
see,
medallion. So if you have three medallions, which I think the max is 3 medallions a person can own,
Okay.
you can have 3 safaris.
That's what the clarity needed to be. So you only a taxi operator could own a maximum, but if you had a business now, you could own more than lease.
You could lease.
Mike Nilsa, Ms. Serrano.
Oh, no, you could lease if you have a business, but each individual, you can only own 2 medallions.
how many safaris?
Oh, sorry. 2 medallions, so each medallion is per vehicle.
Okay.
But they don't specify what kind of vehicle you have once you got your medallion. So
Okay.
what he said just now, but you could have one safari and one. You could entitle to 2 safaris because
With that one
is yours.
medallion, correct?
Wait. Let me say something to you.
One and one.
If I have a medallion and I had wanted to buy a safari, I would have had a safari, and if I'd want to have another one, I'd have 2 safari. They had nothing saying you could have one small car and one safari.
This is interesting.
You're entitled, your medallion entitled to the car you want to drive.
And one medallion is entitled to one car?
One
Yes.
car.
Yes.
Okay,
One
that's
medallion,
one vehicle.
One
One
vehicle.
vehicle.
Each
Okay.
medallion entitled to a vehicle. Don't specify what kind of vehicle it is.
Okay,
Here,
we understand. Okay, Mr. Lewis, we're going to move on to Senator Potter. Senator Potter?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just want to say good evening to all of the persons here in this audience this evening. I just have nothing but respect for you for taking the time from your very busy schedules to be here. And it says that you are committed to the growth and survival of your industry, of this industry, of our industry.
Of our culture.
Really and truly, the tourism is our backbone industry. And if you don't have a taxi industry, what happens to tourism? It fails. So we all have an incentive, not just the drivers who are directly in the business, we all have an incentive to make sure that it survives. We are all disappointed with what we have seen for the last couple of years with the taxi industry. It has issues. It has problems. Because you're here as a senator, doesn't mean that you have all the answers. It doesn't mean that you know everything. It is important for us to have communication from you, the people on the ground, the people who run the day-to-day businesses, so that we can understand and empathize with you as to what is going on and what needs to change. Clearly tonight, things need to change. My dad was a taxi driver for over 50 years. For as long as I know myself, I know my father, who isn't around anymore, to be a taxi driver. He drove for VI Taxi Association. He was stationed at Frenchman's Reef for years. I remember us waking up 4 morning to wash his car every single morning. So I understand the importance of this industry, and I respect and understand that this is one of the last remaining industries that is still in the hands of local people, for the most part. So it is that much more important for us to fight to ensure that it survives. I know that sometimes the belief is that these senators here should be able to do something for us. That's why we elected them. So I understand and I feel your passion. I feel you when you mention that, sir. But the way the structure is, there are some things that we can do. However, the executive branch of government is the executor, in the sense that we cannot go to taxi association or to taxi commission and say, look, you need to do your job and fire you or select somebody else who can do a better job. We can't do that. That's not the role of the legislature. That is the role of the executive branch. Now, we create laws. So clearly we can try to impact the way things are going by changing laws. We can invite, we have oversight responsibilities, we can invite the folks here and talk to them and chastise them and tell them, oh, you're not doing things well, and then they leave here, and we can't make them do it. We can't. They leave here and they do what they want. Very often you say what you need to say right here in the Senate, and then you leave and you do your own thing. You know, that is why we have been pressured and forced to take steps such as maybe we need to change the way the structure is by disbanding the commission and putting it on. But we got to be on a DLCA. So, but we got to think it through. And I heard several of you here this evening express a desire to not go in that direction. So we want, it's clear that things can't continue the way it is. They say that's the first definition of insanity. Keeping things exactly the way they are and expecting somehow that things are going to change. Clearly, we have to do something. I mean, I've toyed with the idea of having a number of the men and women on the commission to be elected by the rank and file or the associations to have a say in who serves on the commission. I mean, and maybe that might be an approach for us to take. I'm not sure. But what I'm sure of is that we need to meet with you. This can't be the last time to figure out a strategy to improve the way things are going. It's ridiculous when you're going to spend half of your day trying to just get basic services done, basic things. It's ridiculous when you're going to say, well, they don't want to talk to me. I come there and I try to speak to the commissioner or to the head of the entity, and she just refused to speak to me. These things shouldn't happen. The reason this agency exists, the reason it exists is to solve this industry. People like you, men and women who wake up every morning, put on their shoes, you know, drive visitors here to and from the airport to the beaches to enjoy this territory. Without taxi drivers, the industry, the tourism industry as we know it, will be dead, without question. So my purpose here today isn't to just tell you this is the solution, but it's to listen to you, to try to understand the industry, to try to understand the problems, and to work collaboratively with you to figure out how we can do something differently to ensure that to ensure the survival of this industry. You know, so I mean, I'm hopeful that as a result of this meeting here this evening, that we'll be able to come up with some meaningful solutions to save this industry. Thank you very much. Nothing but respect go out to each and every one of you who've taken the time to be here this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Potter. Those were some very powerful observations you made because they're all true. We do have, like I said, to disband because we are frustrated. We are frustrated for you. You're in there, you're not getting the services. We don't know where the chairperson, she doesn't live here. And those are the persons who pull up the executive director. And so we're looking at all of these dynamics and seeing that you're not having sufficient representation. We voted for one member, I believe, the last legislator to be on the Taxi Cab Commission, and I believe he is maybe the only one whose term hasn't expired. Senator Bolkes, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Madam Chair, good evening, colleagues, and good evening to the first and the last representation when it comes to the tourism industry here in the Virgin Islands. You are the alpha and you are the omega when it comes to our tourism, when it comes to our public and private transportation, our economic development, and even our Virgin Islands culture. Because my understanding is that you also share that with those individuals who come and visit us here in the Virgin Islands. I have heard your complaints this evening, and I am ready for affirmative action. And I know my colleagues will join me in that, but there is a process that we have to follow and abide by. We need to harness information and data so that we can make informed decisions for you, for your behalf. Because we want this to change. We don't want you to have to deal with what you've been dealing with for so many years. This is ridiculous. We need a taxi industry that is primed and ready to go. The Virgin Islands is always on the top 10 when it comes to tourism. We cannot have you suffering out there. That's backwards thinking. That's not something that we want to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I've heard the complaints about the board members and their functions. We want to regulate the limousines and the Jeep rentals. We understand that there's a revisitation of the fee structure, regulating gypsies and safaris, supply and demand and succession planning. I believe the median age of a taxi driver is likely over his 50s or her 50s. And we want our young people to also be a part of this industry as well. And of course, that is no disrespect to anyone. That's just what we see in front of us. And I agree with you when you say that. There's complaints about the rules and regulations booklet. I've heard individuals say that these rules are not in the booklet, but when you go down to the taxi commission, you're hearing that this rule, that rule, and the next rule is what you have to follow. That don't make sense to me. We also hearing, well, I know for a fact, I visited along with many other senators the facility, and everything is paper-based. We are in a technological age now, and I know COVID has taught many of us to use these devices to do what we have to do, and we need to make sure that we have accurate information. Mr. Court Richards, who was here earlier, I dealt with him earlier in the year. He told me about they couldn't find his payment because they don't process credit card, this, that, and the other. Come on. We really need to do better than this. I don't usually go on like this, but this one touching me hard. You are the first and the last representation of our society when it comes to tourism. And I am with you, and I'm sure my colleagues are with you as well. I'm disappointed that the executive director is not here with us this evening. It is not to put her under the table or whatever. She has her role to play in the commission. There is a board that oversees the policies and the regulations. You have a job to run the office. You should at least be here to hear from the stakeholders of your industry, the individuals who keep you in your job. Pause. Period, like Senator Blyden does say. She should have been here or send a representative on her behalf. And I hope she's listening, because it's not to throw her under the bus or not, but I'm just saying she should have been here. We have a concern about the 25 passengers. Let me elaborate on that for a second, because I agree with the taxi men and women that we continue to see larger ships coming into the Virgin Islands. And thank God for our tourism department, they're doing their job, and we're attracting these individuals here. But you're trying to tell me that we're going to degrade or go backwards and say we want less passengers? Why? Unless, like my colleague mentioned, our good finance chair, that we need to get the information from the Attorney General to find out if it is a federal highway issue. If not, we need to bring the 25 passengers back. It's as simple as that. You know, we don't want to go backwards. We want to make sure that we're able to deal with the flux of tourism and passengers that come to the Virgin Islands here to visit our shores, to learn about our culture and our heritage, and for you to do your job, which I appreciate each and every one of you for being here this evening. I don't have no questions. I am here to support you in each and every way that I can, and I thank you for your time and being here this evening. And Madam Chair, I thank you for putting this meeting together, and colleagues who are here with us tonight, I thank you for always being here and supporting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you kindly, Senator Bolkes. Senator Donna Fred Gregory, you're recognized.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. And I too want to thank all of the taxi drivers, the families of taxi drivers that are here this evening with regards to this issue. This issue is a vexing issue in our territory. We are about to approach another tourism season. When does it start? October?
November.
We're on the heels of October, November. Late October, early November, right? We had this discussion. We've been having this discussion for a good minute. Now, I hear the sentiments about the senators and the concerns about folks being disappointed with myself, because I'm a senator, and my colleagues. However, I want to make sure that we all understand that the responsibility of the operations of executive branch related matters sits squarely with the governor of this territory. The governor appointed some of these board members. These board members are not functioning. We've had several conversations with the executive branch, with the chief executive with regards to this taxi situation that we have in the territory. And nothing has been done. As late as, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was some taxi drivers went to conduct business, 11 o'clock, a sign up saying, we ain't here today, we coming back. I don't know what time. I sent a picture to the governor. I said, Governor, what is? What are you doing with this thing? He said, I too am frustrated. That don't solve the problem. So we, us, as legislators, we say, okay, the legislature of the Virgin Islands is the entity that has created the Taxi Cab Commission. So the legislature of the Virgin Islands have a responsibility to do what is necessary to address the issue of, if it means that this entity is not working. This entity used to be, for those of you who have been around long enough, used to be under licensing and consumer affairs. I think when, on the heels of Charles Turnbull, Governor Turnbull becoming governor, if my research serves me correct. Okay? So, right, before, but when he became governor, it moved under licensing and consumer affairs. I looked at the law. There are several things that the Taxi Commission should be doing. I'm going to tell you something. Based on all the complaints I heard tonight, they are doing nothing that is in this law. Nothing. So what we need to do, we don't need to be emotional about this from a legislative perspective as we make the decision to move this back under licensing and consumer affairs, but there are certain requirements because it is not fair to you all that when you go to our office, every time you go is a different rule. We need to be putting in this legislation upon enactment of the transfer. They need to establish rules and regulations within 60 to 90 days. There are things that needs to be outlined in this legislation in order for this to work. There is zero accountability at Taxi Commission. I am the chair of the Finance Committee. They came before me 3 times. And if you left it up to me, I am only 1 vote in this institution, I would have defunded them. The discussion was, let us fund the salaries only until we make the decision to move them. In our next session, colleagues, we need to get busy. We need to move this. And a lot of times we don't want change and we don't like change. But this change has to happen. But it can't just be move them because we are emotional. It has to be move them with conditions. And they don't move them with everybody. Because if you are customer service a type of employee, you can't be telling people you sit down in your office and come back tomorrow. You are not running your own business, and it is happening. I got a call from a gentleman. He's been speaking to me for 3 days now. He's been trying to sell his taxi medallion for over 3 months. And he sat, yesterday I tell him, sit in the office. And the executive director appears to be the only person that is allowed to do anything in the. Everybody else, they got them choke off. Literally, they can't do nothing else. So she's not available. So and I'm hoping that she's listening because I know they're listening. She's not available. So guess what? Because she's not available, nothing gets done. There is no one person in this territory that should stop progress. And if that person is stopping progress, they need to go home. And it's the truth. And if we have board members who are not functioning, the only thing that we could do here is we could call on the governor, so we're doing it tonight, call on the governor to remove those individuals. Their time has expired, but so that's mean we have a dysfunctional board. The time has expired, so they don't have any obligation. They could come if they wish to move them. So if the governor hasn't sent names to us, ain't nothing that we can do. And this is for Mr. Francis because you're disappointed. But ain't that we paying attention. The names have not come down to this institution. So because the names are not here, we have to do what we have to do. We have to move this organization from under its own commission and move it back under licensing and consumer affairs. We've spoken to the new commissioner nominee, and they are willing and prepared to do so. This cannot continue to go on. This industry, as my colleague shared, is a backbone of our tourism industry. You are the first and you are the last persons that the tourists that come here see. This can't continue. People can't be coming to your office sitting on 3 and 4 days without no service, and then the last thing that was said to the gentleman was, "Oh, your name on a list, I'm going to call you when I'm ready." You don't know what people's financial situation is. He's trying to sell his medallion for 3 months. You do not know what, if he has a medical condition, you do not know what these people's issues are. So this is unfortunate and very sad that we have to come to a place where we are having this type of conversation, where we have one person that's deciding whether or not the livelihood of the taxi drivers in this territory are being able to be successful. And I understand your frustration. And yes, a lot of times I don't make promises that I can't keep. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. But if I'm going to do it, I'm also going to do it based on my research. So there are things, it's not only just transfer, there are things that we have to put in this legislation to also hold the next entity accountable. Otherwise, we're going to be in the same situation. Okay, so there are things that we have to do. The issue with the enforcement, let me just share something with y'all from the chair of the Finance Committee. That's myself. When you look at the fund balances of the Taxi Commission fund, over the years, y'all generate $450,000, $500,000. The fund balance currently have $89,000 in it. They're not raising any money, or they're not posting the money. I am not sure where the money going. I don't know if y'all are paying your bills. I don't know. And then there's an issue, and I have to ask Mr. Harrigan about this, and anybody else in the room. I guess let me just ask period. How many individuals were unable to register, to pay their annual fee, and was unable to do so, and then when you finally were able to do so, you were charged late fees? How many? So you had to pay the late fees, right? Yes. So now we need to get back, and that's why I tell you the legislation has to be properly thought out, because if you are unable to get in that office to pay your fees, the government need to pay you back your money, because that is black on black suppression. It has to stop. We can't continue to do things like this to our community and feel that it's okay. They got to pay the money back. Wherever it comes from, they have to pay it back. If you can prove that you have gone there, then we need to put this in the legislation to require them to return your money.
They're going to say you're going to get credit.
A credit, whatever it is. But something has to give at this point. This year, what we did not legislate, we did not appropriate all of their money. We only appropriated a portion, because the plan of action is to move them. I want to say move them. Let me not use the word move them. It's to move the taxi licensing and whatever other responsibilities under licensing and consumer affairs. So they necessarily mean that the executive director going. Okay, if you ain't doing what you're doing now, I don't know why you should be going anywhere.
But they're making up their own rules
So-
down there too.
That's the thing. So on the perspective, my time count?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I did not realize my time was called. I didn't hear.
yes.
My time was called, but we are going to work on the legislation and do what we have to do. There's some other things here that we have to get information on in order for us to circle this up to ensure that we are able to make this make sense. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are welcome. I know we're getting a lot of other questions. I'm going to just let you know, I have to respect my colleagues. They've been here from the inception with us. And I want to assure that they have an opportunity to ask you questions or to also let you know their perspective on the issue. So at this time, I will recognize Senator Blyden. Senator Blyden, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I want to say good evening again to all the taxi operators And one thing I must make clear, and of course, like my colleague on my left, my dad also was a taxi operator for many years from the time I was a little boy with East End Taxi. And people need to realize and understand, each taxi operators, most of them are small business owners. Why are we putting so much roadblocks in their way for them to expand their businesses? That's unacceptable in my opinion. I believe that we must make it easier for them to operate and expand their businesses. I know Mr. Mohammed spoke earlier to age limit. And I believe that, like any other business, you should be able to expand your business. If I have a taxi, I don't want to pass it on to my son or listen to someone, I should be able to do that. So we must find a way to work with the operators in this industry because it's very important. Because as was stated, both of us are locals, and those are local businesses. So I am on board with that. I believe we have heard your disappointment. We too are frustrated, as you can see. And we have heard your cries, and I believe we have marching orders, and we will be bringing legislation, holistic legislation to address most of the issues that we have spoke of tonight. But I want to mention a couple of things, though, in respect to your responses, because you also spoke to the board, and the board played the most important role. And I do agree with you in respect to the board members and what their qualifications should be, because I know we did something like that for WAPA, and it makes a lot of sense, and we must find a way to put legislation in place to do just that, because you need individuals who understand the industry, who is part of the industry, who cares about the industry, not anyone just to go there and basically make it difficult for the operators and the business owners. I also want to speak to enforcement. That's critical also. As was stated, right now the enforcement officers are not doing enforcement; they are doing desk duties, and I believe that's unacceptable. So I believe we also will be doing a mission. We will be going on a mission to find a fact-finding mission to really see what's going on down there, effective immediately. I know, as my colleague stated, we have been going down there at times, and there's notes on the door, etc. So there's issues. They have issues, and they have challenges, and we must do what's necessary to correct them. I know also they spoke to, in terms of the 27 and 25 seaters. I know that has been on the table for some time. And I know in respect to the taxis being able to upgrade their business when they have a new, want to build a new safari, and being able to continue that business without having to go through the whole process again. And I am happy that we did deal with that challenge in the past, and that's no longer an issue moving forward. In respect to the Department of License and Consumer Affairs, putting the taxi cab under that department, I know we had a conversation in several meetings ago in respect to creating a new department, under Public Works, the Department of Transportation. We had those discussions. I had a discussion with some of the taxi drivers before, but everything must go through a process and see if it makes sense and how it can work in respect to the government. But I want to say this though. I really appreciate you guys for basically keep fighting for what is right, keep fighting for the tourism industry in terms of taxis. And I know that after tonight, we will move forward diligently in respect to solving most of these challenges that you face on a daily basis. And I must say that, Madam Chair, I must say that this meeting is critical, it's important, and I must say that I am happy with many of the suggestions that were made this evening by the operators. I look forward to working with you guys and with them in coming up with meaningful solution that will basically put our taxi industry back in its rightful place. And again, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and thank you so much, Madam Chair.
I like to
Thank you so much, Senator Blyden. I will speak now. You can speak if you like, Ms. Alba.
Yes, I have one other thing to say. Governor Bryan gave his approval for people outside of the territory to be on the chair board for the Taxi Commission. That's not right. That is not right. Because it has one person on there right now and he's not a part of this territory. That is not right. Like what she said, they need to have people that's in the taxi industry on that board, moving the Taxi Commission over to DLCA is not gonna do anything because they make up their own rules down there too. So it's not gonna change. We need somebody that's a part of our community to represent us in those offices.
Okay, it's well noted. For me, just to wrap up and look at where we are with some of the items that were outlined, I want to first begin by thanking you. Even though they declined to come here, you stayed and you voiced your concerns. My hats are off to each one of you because this industry is your bread and butter. And it's very important. I take it seriously. I know how it is that you have to go out there time and time again to earn your money, and it's based on what you present to our visitors. You are on the front line of our major industry, and therefore it was fitting, it was timely for us to have this meeting, because we've been calling them since I've been the chair, and I've been the chair for the government operations from the 34th. And we brought them in countlessly, okay? And we just keep seeing the dysfunctionality of that agency, that entity. I don't know how all of you have been able to survive so long and you haven't gotten some type of illness because of all of the runaround you to go through. Because it's vexing, and you shouldn't, especially knowing that these individuals are being paid your tax dollars to serve you. You are begging for their services. They are being paid your hard-earned tax dollars to provide you with the services. And so are we. And we have to be solutions-oriented. Okay? I know some of you are not pleased here when we mentioned about dismantling the taxi cab commission, but that's how I know things to change. There are some of us in the room, we come from a federal side, and we know when it's not operating correctly, you do one thing, you dismantle the board. That's what you have to do. You dismantle the board. It starts with the board. This board is the entity. That's where is the accountability. They are just like legislators like us. Okay? If they are not doing their work, the first thing you do is dismantle it. And then you put it under a different management, because you cannot continue to operate the same way. Everybody, some people were against it. I could appreciate it. But it's an exercise in madness constantly. You telling me not one of those board members, even though their time may have expired, could have been here? When we take time to say our oath, and they do as well, we take it seriously. You call us, we come in even late in the night sometimes. Okay? So you should hold them to the same or a higher caliber, because they're providing you, all of you, with direct services. It is not acceptable. It's unacceptable that you're going to their place, you're going to the taxi cab commission, and you are not getting service because somebody doesn't want to come out and talk to you. That's crazy. That's not how you act professionally, especially at that level. You don't do it. You don't do it. And here, if you can't speak, you have a backup. You see my backup them here? You see the backup? If I need to go to the restroom or something is happening with me, I could say, Senator Fonseca, take this chair. I got to go and do this. The backup. And she has been there for a while. She was a backup to her predecessor. Am I right or am I right?
You're right.
Huh?
Yes.
And you think that is acceptable that they haven't, and we were helping her along to get her started and giving her by putting in a next piece of legislation that allows her to have the ability to hire? Oh, empower her. What has happened? Oh, nothing. And you think that you should keep something like that? I don't think so. I ain't tolerating it. And I understand, I am going to be up in arms for you because I know better. I know how government's supposed to run. And so I have really deep concerns about where it is. It cannot continue. And when they don't show up, that's an insult to my people. And I represent all of you. You don't have to elect me. I representing you anyhow. Anyhow. Okay? I am going to be present and I'm going to go out there and check. And I tell you, I am the checker. Ask them, right? I go out there and I check and see what people doing. Check and see if you're on the job. Check to see what you're doing because it's my people tax-paying money that paying your bills and giving you your check. So it's important to me, and you could come and check for me too. I like that. But we also had a need for the policies and regulation. It is driving me crazy that you have never seen these policies. What did it be talking about? How is it you're operating a taxi cab and you have never seen these policies these persons are holding you to? You're supposed to be able to see, look, we could pull up laws that pass here, right? How is it you can't pull up, they can't be able to show you that or have it in a book to show you that? It's problematic. It is this is madness how this is operated. This is not good governance and it's not good operation. I'm going to tell you, it's not. And then there's also this issue with the 20-seater. That needs to be resolved because the law is clear. People can't come and arbitrarily make up what they want. Okay? We had that issue right here in this committee. I'm going to tell you now, with VI lottery, they didn't want to give the retirees them the money. And we had to straight it out right here. Right here. We straightened them out and said, no, you got to do it. They didn't want to give even agriculture the money from the horse racing improvement fund and all of those things. We had to, it's how we interpret it. And how you interpret it, it's very clear. They just don't want to do, they want to do what they want. Exactly. Okay? Exactly. It has to stop. It has to stop. And we need to hold one head. Okay? That's all it is, you know. You got to hold your head with your legislators who are fighting for you. Amen. You got to hold one head. You can't be going out here, I don't like this, I don't like that. You give it a chance to work. You give it a chance to work. If it ain't working, then we could go back and fix it. But right now, it ain't working. Are you agree working? Is it working for you?
No.
Huh? No. So if it isn't working, guess what we gotta do? Fix it. What? Fix it. Oh, fix it. And even if you don't like that it's going under DLC, I'm gonna tell you, or another entity, it got to fix. I asked the commissioner nominee, her name is Natalie Hodge. I asked her if she would accept it. She told me informally, because we were at an event, she doesn't mind, she'll do it. She's a good manager. Okay, she's responsive. She's responsive, she's a good manager. I would ask you to give it a chance. We have to tighten it up for her to clearly delineate what needs to be done with the taxi. And maybe when she fixes it, or when we, because it's a collective, when we fix it, and I'm going to definitely ask her to have you at the table, when we fix it, because it's a we, okay? When we fix it, then it could maybe go back to what it was, with things clearly written out. So those are some of the things I'm taking away from this meeting. And so we have to really follow up with them regarding those things and tighten up the law that Senator Fred Gregory preempted me with. But we're working with her. You had a next question, Ms. Joseph? If you need to. Go ahead. Please recognize Ms. Joseph Mike here.
Hello? Okay.
You're good.
I didn't have a question, but I more so had a comment. I appreciate that you guys are really going to work with us on trying to find a solution. But I'm keep hearing that you guys want to dismantle it, and we keep saying that we need to at least start with the board first before. And before you guys do dismantle, if you choose to, go back and, like Senator Gregory said, that she does research. Go back and research and see why it didn't work under DLCA before making the decision of changing it.
It was working, you know. You could ask the taxi drivers, okay? Look, the head is the elder head of hair. Was it working when it was under DLCA? Okay, was it working when it was? Okay, Mr. Pinney here, he's almost old enough to be my father, and I'm over 50. Young. He said it was working.
I'm hearing now that it's working, but
it had worked. We telling you, I remembered. I was a younger person, but I remember it was working.
I'm hearing what you're
saying. So you're clear. So we are clear. It was work. I am telling you, give it a chance. Okay. So who? Okay. Well, would the kind gentleman come up here? We are not going to receive you down there. Mr. Smith? Well, let this gentleman speak first. And we're going to wrap up in a few. It's 9:08. We started about 6:30. Okay? So kindly put your name on the record.
Well, I'm Sonny Liston from Sonny Liston Tours, LLC. And I really appreciate that you're delving to get these things fixed. I'm just going to give you my situation. I have a son who need to get a taxi license. Since he was about 21, he's 26 now. And every time I go down there, they say, oh no, you got to wait until they put his name on a list and they're going to call us. This is over 5 years now. Number two, with the thing about the safari buses. I own a safari bus. I have a 25-passenger safari bus also. The problem is, I'm disabled now. I have a standard vehicle, and I want to change this standard vehicle to an automatic vehicle with this. Just take off the front and put it on the back. I hadn't want to do that. A lot of running around. What I do on my own, I went and tried to change my truck from a standard to automatic. I spent over $10,000 to get it done. Wow. I didn't get it done because right now the Ford company don't make those harnesses for those vehicles to get it changed. So I now have to return to go back to my standard that already I'd changed it to automatic, and now I have to change it back to a standard. I am disabled. I cannot continue driving a standard vehicle. I need an automatic vehicle. They're saying if I go and change my Safari, they want to tell me I have to cut off a seat. Yeah. I've been driving taxi for over 29 years here. They're telling me if I have to go and change the Safari, I could no longer have a 25-passenger Safari. I have to cut it down to 20. And the industry is getting bigger. The ships are getting bigger. Why are they trying to cut us down as poor people here in this territory? So I really appreciate that you are looking to this very, very, very soon, maybe tomorrow. as quick as possible,
Okay, so-
we could get it done and get this stupidness what they're saying out of the action.
Okay, Mr. Liston?
Yeah.
Mr. Liston?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We did cover that a bit in 6595, that since you are owner, how long you owned your Safari? With a 25?
I have my
Yeah.
Safari from since 2006. I had two.
You had one before 2003 as 25-seater?
No, my
Okay.
2006.
Okay. So it had to have been before 2002 or 2003.
But I was approved to have the 25 passenger.
You was approved for a
Yes.
25 passenger?
Yeah, both me and my wife had two 25
Senator.
passengers.
So you may not have the correct year you're mentioning. So it may be a little bit up.
Senator,
Okay.
because I own a 25 passenger also. The reason how I got my 25 passenger is because my dad had owned a medallion and turned the medallion over to me. I did not owe the bank or anything for the medallion. Once you own the medallion, you're entitled to the largest size vehicle in the industry, which is at the time they said 27 passenger. Miss Judy Whitley at the time told me she cannot give me a 27 passenger. She can give me a 25 because your room up front is your office space. So once you own your medallion, you're entitled to a 25 passenger by law. Because I had to came to the senators to get that. I went to, at the time it was Celestino White, and he assisted me in that.
He tell you.
Huh?
You see the way he tell you that?
Yeah, that assisted me in getting it.
Can I ask a question?
Once you own a medallion, you're entitled.
We want to wrap up. We want to be quick in wrapping up, okay? Because it's really late and the time has been spent. We're gonna go to Mr. Moyes over here, Mr. Bernard, okay? And then we're gonna go to Nilsa Serrano, and then we're gonna close out.
One thing
I'm so sorry. I missed you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna put you right after. No, you and then Mr. Liebert is late. I'm tired. Mr. Smith and then you, Nelsa.
No problem.
One thing I'd like to say, thank you very much for listening to us, the poor people. I'm going to say it as it is, the black people that have small businesses in the Virgin Islands. Thank you very much. But one thing I'd like to say that the Act 65, whatever it is, I'd like you to do some amendments to it and allow anybody who want a 25, let them have a 25. But you have to put a moratorium onto how long you're could build 25. Put a moratorium on it, but allow it right now. Anybody want a 25 passenger, so let it be done. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith, you ready?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for holding this meeting, this town hall. I know I would like for the Safari drivers to get their 27 passengers, but I would also like, because it bunks over the head, it seems like licensing and consumer right now is licensing
Limousine
industry that is running rampant, and the taxi industry. I have my phone right here, right? I consider first thing they need to get this limousine thing under control, because when you could have a license, a limousine company, see right there, Tropic Adventures and Limousine and Tropic Adventure Luxury Transport Travels, and they could have on their website a comparison with is showing a luxury limousine is cheaper than a taxi. We have a problem. A luxury limousine is advertising. See it right here, comparison. They basically misconstrued a taxi price and have a group of 6 from Red Hook, from airport to Red Hook, as 221. That's not right, because our private includes the thing, and their private would run you. A group of 6 would run you. So they're saying a taxi would be $221 and a private limousine would be $129.
Mr. Smith, what's the site? What's the website? What's the website? What's the website address?
It's a tropical adventure luxury travel. And it's stthomaslimousines.com. Well, you could think. But senators, this law here that was created right here in this legislature is the problem to this. So this is just something that needs amending.
Amended, not necessarily, but put under the taxi cab commission, right? With the industry.
But even if anything, according to what this is saying, how can a limousine be operating? Because it's right here saying that a limousine is not a vehicle for hire. So they shouldn't be running passengers, period. If according to what this is saying.
It should go under the regulation and oversight of the taxi cab. Because I'm telling you, because it is transporting human beings. It's a transportation. This is just my 2 cents. Even the water taxis
should be under the taxi cab commission.
That is correct, because they have, and I'll get on my soapbox regarding you guys not thinking forward. They're building these little planes to fly around now, right? They're building them in Ohio, okay? They're starting to build them in Ohio. Taxi is air too. You know about air taxi?
Yeah. The industry changing, yes, but mind you,
and
let
you
me make this
have
straight. Let me get this on the record straight.
Okay.
I am not against limousine drivers. I am against how the structure
and
is
we
designed.
understand.
This here need to be structured. We have to buy a medallion.
I
we
understand.
have to pay our
it needs to be regulated. We understand. Thank you. The night is getting.
Let me get one more point. Just
quickly, because Nilsa is there and the time is.
They also don't even have to have a chauffeur license to operate. How is that possible? A limousine was supposed to be chauffeur. They don't even have a chauffeur license. They could pick up anybody and just drive.
Okay.
69.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But be clear. It sounds as though the consensus is with the limousine is that they need to be regulated. And that's what I'm understanding. Nilsa, Ms. Serrano, you're up.
Okay, good night. Back again on the Act 6595. I know I really want you guys to take a look at it really serious, because I know I follow in federal guidelines and everything like that. But what's the difference between a 20 and a 25 passenger seriously on the road? You understand? So if the federal guidelines is against 25, why are you not against 20? So I really wanted to take a look at it. And federal guidelines, funny enough, if we were following the federal guidelines to a T, we really should be driving on the right. But we would drive on the left. So clearly they don't make certain exceptions. So please take a really good look at the act for me. Please, thank you.
It is noted. Okay, I would like to close out this evening's town hall by thanking you again, the taxi drivers and operators, men and the women who are on the front line of our tourism industry, for doing the work that you do every day, countlessly in and out, to really make sure the experience, colleagues, to make sure the experience our visitors come to our shore is enjoyable. That is very important. We are going to work, right? We are going to work and see what we can do to really make some really positive change. It may be a little hard in the beginning, right? But we will definitely include you in the conversations and get your input. That's why we had this meeting, actually, to see what solutions you're coming up with. We heard that the persons who have been in this industry for a number of years, they are saying that when this industry was under DLCA, it was operating well. That's what they're saying. Okay, so that's one of the things we're going to look and we're going to see what all that we can do. The other thing is I want to really thank is, again, my colleagues and also the hardworking central staff who was here from the beginning to make sure we kept order. I also want to thank my staff, and you will be hearing from us in the near future again. I just got a note to tell the people not to go out the door by the elevator. That means to go down the stairs here because the alarm is going off. So you need to take the elevator to go downstairs, okay? You need to take the elevator instead of the stairs. Okay, take the elevator downstairs to the first floor. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Okay, so this town hall meeting is adjourned, and thank you so much for being here this evening.